Hello, good morning, welcome back, and thank you for those of you who have just subscribed to this channel during my Scotland travel series. So recently I did travel alone using specifically only public transportation around Scotland and managed to travel around for 1,000 miles within 10 to 11 days. And on this particular video, I would like to talk specifically about how I did plan my travel, what did I use, where did I sleep, how much I spent, and many other detailed things that probably will be useful for you if you're planning to do the same thing. Before going further into details, I would like to give a shout out to my Patreon community. This series and any type of travel series that I've done in the past would not have been possible without the support of my lovely Patreon community. So Patreon is basically a membership platform where audience like you can support a creator like me and my work, where you can sign up to a monthly membership. This way you'll get an early access, travel writings, travel photos, behind the scenes stories that I usually don't share anywhere else, and travel postcards that I usually send out to your address with my own personal writing from whichever country that I travel to. If you're interested to find out more, the link is in the description box below. You're welcome to join, and I can't wait to see you there. Before going to any type of countries by traveling alone, traveling with my friends, which I never have done actually, or travel filming, which is basically my job, I would take a good week or two to just strictly research. A few resources that I would recommend while planning your travel is obviously a physical map. It's really nice to just, like circle things and then really get deep into the location names and familiarize yourself with that area. Some countries do not probably have physical map that you can have the access to. Probably you can use Google Maps or Maps.me. So with Scotland travel series, my challenge was that I only had about 2 weeks maximum to travel and film all together, and I really wanted to try using public transportation. Initially, I wanted to strictly use train, which I gathered the inspiration from this particular book, Scotland from the Rails. This is particularly good for travel enthusiasts out there. My first task was actually to map out all different train stations that exist in Scotland and see which train journeys specifically that were possible for me to do in the time span of that particular day that I have. Apart from that, websites of different public transportation such as ScotRail, Scottish CityLink, which is the bus in Scotland, Northlink, which is the ferry that specifically runs through on the northern side of Scotland, Caledonian MacBrayne are also useful. My route is also determined by the type of accommodation exists in Scotland. And here we're talking about budget accommodation. Being in the UK, you don't spend £10 or £15 for an accommodation. That's a price for a camping grounds for you. But for me personally, because I have a lot of travel filming gear, I do want to sleep on a comfortable bed, but I don't mind sharing the room with other people. This is where hostel comes in handy, and there's so many hostels in Scotland. It's fantastic. It has such a great atmosphere, infrastructure, that if you don't mind sharing such room with other people, although not sharing the bed, you can easily choose this mode of accommodation. But it's also quite difficult to know whereabouts these hostels are. Usually on their website, they would have this map of different types of hostels available, and you can also plan your route according to that. Unfortunately, in Scotland, you can't really be spontaneous because most of the times accommodations are fully booked, especially if it's in high season, such as in the spring season, especially in summer. Don't think about traveling in Scotland in summer without being, fully prepared. And after that, I would check out which areas of Scotland that has ferry system. I learned that the west coast part of Scotland has specific ferry system run by Caledonian Make Brain, which I'm a fan of. And I would see the timetables of the ferries in terms of where do they go, what time do they depart, and usually how often do they operate within that week. All the links that I've just mentioned will be available on the description box below, just so that you can help yourself planning the trip. Before going to Scotland, my idea was that actually, because this year I just got married and trying to get to know my husband's home country, the UK in general, sort of inspired me to create a challenge for myself to travel on a budget in Scotland. Because obviously UK is not a budget travel destination. But I knew that things were possible if I spent enough time planning. So, what and how much did I spend? I actually am still a traditional planner where I write things on a book like this instead of write things online. I documented all of the expenses I have in Scotland, and there are three main expenses when it comes to traveling. First being the accommodations, for sure. Second being transportation, and the third one being the food. I usually don't do paid activities because my focus is usually also meet locals and traveler alike that I can meet at the hostels or even websites such as couchsurfing.com. So I thought, how would I go about this if I can't really negotiate and spending my expenses on hostels? It's already like shared with other people in this particular room. Where can I find deals in terms of my food or transport expenses? So I found that ScotRail, or the train company in Scotland, offers different travel pass, which means you can use this travel pass to get on the train, the bus, and the ferry on the west coast of Scotland for free. But the caveat was that I had to particularly know my route and calculate how much all of this would have costed me in total. Because if the travel pass is much more expensive than actually paying the ticket themselves, it won't make sense. Therefore, I plan going such long distance all the way to Orkney, and also took different long trains, long buses, just so that I could cover long distances, just so that this travel pass also would be worthwhile. Accommodations here first, I actually only stayed in hostels. So in total, I spent £262 for 10 days, and that includes an annual membership that I had to pay £20 just so that I could use this hostel in different areas in Scotland. So generally the hostels in Scotland were very clean and comfortable in terms of bedding, hot shower, and great receptionist or just like customer service. In terms of transport, so this is where I purchased a travel pass through ScotRail website. The Spirit of Scotland itself that I purchased would allow me to travel, I think, 7 or 8 days, travel days, within the span of 15 days. And that in itself cost me 124 or 125 pounds because I have a rail card, which is actually a card specifically for train users in the UK. You can basically use that and purchase that online yourself. The travel pass could only be used in Scotland. There was an additional 20 to 30 pounds for extra buses and ferry, especially ferry to Orkney. For research itself, such as this maps, books, I still paid £14 or purchased map and book worth of £14. The last category of spending is food, where I could actually cut down my expenses and managed to spend £100 for the entire almost 2 weeks. I generally skip breakfast and would have soup of the day and sandwich for lunch and breakfast or brunch all together before having slightly in between late afternoon but early dinner. That way I don't really overeat and I don't spend too much money on food. So for the recap of all the costs I spent, in terms of accommodation, I spent £262. In terms of transportation, I spent £207. In terms of research, I spent £14. And the last one being food, I spent £100, which makes it in total of £583. I think it was pretty good budget. Obviously, this is not an Asian country, so you can't really do a true backpacker. But this is good budget that granted me places to sleep, hot shower, warm food, good and reliable transportation. So that wrapped up my Scotland travel. So what's next, if you ask me? Because I actually am leaving in a few days, going to a new country. I'm actually going to Albania. Woohoo! So exciting! Last year, I actually tried applying for an Albanian visa and I got rejected by the Albanian embassy, which was very disheartening. Therefore, I went to Serbia as an alternative, but I still would like to go. Thankfully, because now that I have my UK residence permit, I do have access to countries such as Albania, North Macedonia, or even Montenegro that I can travel to without applying for another tourist visa. That in itself is a freedom for me. But yeah, I am excited because I'll be obviously traveling alone and probably will include some villages life, probably mountainous area a bit, and probably some scooter riding because I do have local contacts that would be able to help me out with that, which is fantastic. This is like my freedom is coming back to me finally after waiting for so long. But yeah, you can expect a new video from a new travel series in Albania coming out in the early of October, and hopefully we will be able to produce and release this video one by one each week. I can't wait to actually share this travel with you. When I'm traveling alone, I am learning as much as you are learning while watching the videos, if that makes sense. So yeah, I'm just excited what sort of stories and people, and probably just returning to the Balkan region in itself is an exciting thing for me. Can't wait to see you again on my next video. Bye!